Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to right here at youtube.com/Steve and Larson. Available wherever podcasts can be found, and of course, taped live at the Twitch at twitch.tv/Steve and Larson. We had a packed, but fairly divisive Raw after Mania this year. Larson and I are going to give you guys our thoughts and comments about that. We'll run down the show, answer some of your questions. But first, this was pretty funny. We had, by the way, quick programming note. No numbers don't lie this week because we're going to just sort of take it a little bit more easy because of the heavy streaming weekend. Mm-hmm. We'll be back with that to revisit Bret Hart next week, though.
Yeah, new poll, new all that.
Knew all that, exactly.
Maybe I'll try to watch more Bret matches. More importantly, maybe listen to more Bret Hart promos.
Yeah, maybe. We will have a new episode of our bonus episode, Overrun, today for Twitch subs, YouTube channel members, and, of course, Patreons at patreon.com/Steve and Larson. First up, a little bit of inter-promotional shit talk.
Yeah.
Which is always fun to see from a guy who's no stranger to it.
No.
Seth freaking Rollins.
He seems to revel in it, in fact. So during an interview from Raw last night, I believe, with Gorilla Position, Seth Rollins was asked, who would he like to see follow Cody Rhodes and come through the forbidden door to WWE? And this is what Seth had to say in response. These transcripts come to you from Cage Side Seats. Quote, anybody who wants to come work in the big leagues, and he does, it says here cackle, and I can confirm he does cackle.
Is it like an in-character cackle?
It's kind of, yeah. So he
good.
says, I said it to him last night. I said it before. This is the premier professional wrestling company on the planet. I know. Oh, don't say professional wrestling. Doesn't matter. We have the best in the world, and now we have Cody Rhodes on top of that, and he is joining that club. So if you want to be the best, don't go play rinky-dink. Come here. Do your thing here. We are the best. Top notch. Across the board.
Is this the Source Awards? If you don't want... Okay, go ahead.
He says, and I'm not taking anything away from anybody else who's anywhere else. I love it. Do what you do. You guys are tremendous. There's great talents out there, but this is where you are the best. This is where you find out if you can hack it on the top level.
That's great. That's amazing because he knows people just pick this shit up and run with it.
He's
awesome.
85% in character throughout this whole interview. I watched most of it. This is like seemingly right after he'd probably had it, or shortly after he had a segment with Cody. He's got the suit on and everything. This is all mostly in jest. Now I know he is very raw WWE and has been for a good number of years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But this is him having fun.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it gets everybody up in arms.
Exactly.
Wrestling Twitter and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
You know what, man? There's nobody happier that AEW exists than a guy like Seth Rollins because it ups his price. Mm-hmm. Because when it comes time for negotiations, everybody knows there's another company out there now, and that just makes his price tag go up. Mm-hmm. But no, I love Seth Rollins, man. I think he's doing terrific work now. Of course, seems like maybe the feud between him and Cody Rhodes will continue. Given what we saw on the Raw after Mania. Man, when we entered into our pre-show today on the Twitch, you and I were both like, kind of liked Raw. It was a tweet from our friend Sean Ross Sapp. He last night before his recap, he tweeted out, "Man, that was a lame Raw after Mania. Come watch us review it." And I was like, "Oh shit, did I miss something?" I'll be honest with you, man, and this might be me being a WWE sweaty, Larson.
Oh wow, let's hear it.
But I don't know, with the exception of maybe some matches that could have been a bit more dynamic. I thought, or maybe added some stuff that could have forwarded some stuff. I thought Raw after Mania was decent last night, especially considering within context, the last couple years have been actual dog shit. I know even the last 2 years. Granted, there was the COVID, and so it was Thunderdome last year, and before that it was Empty Arena. Mm-hmm. But even going back to 2019 wasn't particularly good.
No.
The year before that, we're going to take a look at that in Overrun, by the way, the last couple 10 years or so of Raw after Manias and see how many have actually been decent. But I don't know. I kind of enjoyed last night's Raw, to be honest with you.
The last Raw after Mania that I can remember actually being interesting was probably the one we were at in Orlando. When Roman comes out to start the show and is booed.
Yeah. It was a lively
for
crowd,
like
yeah.
10 minutes. Yeah. Revival debuted. That was if I remember correctly, that was a pretty decent show, even though I was exhausted by the time we went to that Raw. You know, as a standalone episode of Raw, it was fine. There's story progression. Things happen. That's really all I ask for from Raw these days. It's just over the course of the 3 hours, have a couple things happen, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, within context of the last 3, 4, maybe 5 Raw after Manias, which have been largely uneventful, I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah. No, I thought it was pretty decent, man. We had the return of Elias as maybe a different character, maybe not, which is kind of comedically intriguing. I'm interested to see where they go with it. Veer finally came, and he came pretty hard there with the Mysterios. I would have liked a little bit more. I mean, I know how they're presenting him as like, you know, a destroyer off the bat, which usually bodes well for a person. To see, you know, where they're going to be headed. It was not like an Emelina situation, which a lot of people feared.
They didn't make his actual debut a joke.
Right, exactly.
You know,
which sadly enough, we have to, you know, give credit where credit's due. If you don't make somebody's debut a joke,
it may have been nice if, like, him coming out and attacking the Mysterios. You know, I guess you want to make a name for yourself. You come out and attack a legend and his son. It'd have been nice if they had him return and actually get involved in something story wise and have his attack be motivated beyond just I'm coming out here to make a name for myself. You know.
Yeah, I mean that's where the criticism comes in. It would have been nice if, you know, Veer's got a great look. And all in his vignettes, I'm like, oh man, this guy's got a good voice. He's got a great backstory, which we kind of knew they weren't going to go there, which is sad because his backstory is great. They made a fucking movie.
It is. It's really interesting, and he's a super athletic dude.
Yeah, he is. Now I don't know. I mean, he might not be great in the ring or whatever at this early stage in his career. But I mean, you know, if you have a look and you got a promo, you don't really need everything in the ring, anyways.
Well, he's got his looks good, his promo's good, he's athletic.
Yeah. Which means he can learn.
Yeah.
It would have been kind of cool if they would have presented somebody with a bit more dimension than, you know, wild, crazy eyes and breathing really heavy. But I don't know. The WWE likes that thing anyways.
Yeah, I know. They don't mind. In fact, they seem to enjoy just having a bunch of one-dimensional characters out there.
Yeah, I know. I loved Cody's promo. I loved his promo.
There's one thing I didn't like about the whole presentation. Good. So when they have the Cody Vader, as we saw at WrestleMania, it was fine. He actually rose from the stage to the ramp. So on Raw, they had to construct like a little pedestal with its own ramp because the stage at Raw is like 2.5, 3 feet high.
Right.
If that. It's pretty shallow. Yeah. So he obviously can't, you know, go from underground. There's not a subterranean Cody Vader. They got to build it up. And so they add this thing to it, and they cut to him too early, so his head's sticking out of the top of this thing. He's kind of looking around before he starts to rise up. And I'm like, this looks so... Speaking of Rinky-Dink, that looked Rinky-Dink.
That looked Rinky-Dink.
Like, I understand that's an important part in his mind of his entrance.
Yeah,
they got to find a solution that's better than that one.
Yeah, you can't have his head just, hey, what's going on?
And you got like the narrow, you know, like when you get a U-Haul truck and you have the ramp you pull out to help you walk up it. That's what the ramp looked like.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. It's the details sometimes that matter. That's a good point. I thought the meat of his actual promo was pretty good.
Yeah, the meat of his, he outlined his motivation about why he returned to WWE, and it's relatable and it's personal.
Yeah,
and there's a very specific,
solid,
there's a very specific goal he's after. It's not some nebulous thing.
Yeah, right.
So.
Yeah, and I at this point, like, I'd be kind of shocked if he didn't get the WWE title.
Yeah.
The end of the show. Let's talk about like one, I guess, kind of a negative. I'll call it a negative because even in the moment I was like, okay, I understand why they did that, but it's kind of lame. Roman Reigns at the end of Raw dropped a 5-minute promo where he basically just said, you want to know what I'm doing next? Go tune into SmackDown on Friday. Does this mean are they at a point where they actually don't know what they're gonna do with that with the two titles? You'd think they'd have a distinct plan in mind when they announce the thing, but then it's WWE.
Hold on. Yeah.
okay.
What are you talking about?
I know.
They were getting to the point of WrestleMania after that. I don't know. I'm sure that's their attitude. I don't know.
Well, we thought we'd raise the stakes, so we put both titles on the line.
But Bruce, what's next?
God damn it, pal.
Yeah, no. I mean,
that's my new favorite thing, by the way, is
God
our impression.
Damn it,
Bruce's impression.
Of
Vince McMahon.
Yeah. You know, it would have been one thing if the contents of the promo built to him saying, you know, like it's some swerve at the end, like he's building up to his moment of announcing what he's going to do next, and at the end he says, "Well, if you want to know, watch SmackDown." But it wasn't even that. It was. He says, "Heyman, hey, list off our success." He did. Roman pretty much says, "I told you I was going to smash Brock. I smashed him. And if you want to know what I do next, watch SmackDown." And that was it.
That was it. Yeah,
that was it. It was underwhelming.
Nobody interrupted him.
Nope.
I mean, it would have been cool if you debut somebody,
or just have Cody come out,
or just that's a bit quick. Yeah, because that's really booking yourself into a corner. Because Cody, he's like, "Hey, I'm going to get this title, but you got to be strategic about it. You can't take on the tribal chief now. You got to wait and see if the tribal chief is maybe going to."
If you want to get people talking, you have Cody come out.
Yeah. Or have something happen. What did you think about Braun Breaker winning that NXT title on Raw?
I guess, and this shouldn't surprise me, WWE cares more about, now of all times, getting eyeballs on NXT rather than telling a coherent story. I was...
Well, it kind of fits in. It kind of fits
to a
degree.
But it seems like...
He got his rematch, yeah.
He got his rematch, but again, that's just like, oh, Braun was impressive enough, he got his rematch. Kind of flimsy rationale after this is his rematch from losing it the first time. I did like the commentary, continued the story they're telling at NXT about him being inexperienced and his opponents, if they're veterans, taking advantage of that. And it did play into this match as well, where Dolph tried to replay the finish, what happened on Saturday, didn't work out for him. Braun wins.
He's a quick learner.
He's a quick learner,
but he's still learning.
He's still learning. Exactly. They continue that story from NXT, which is cool. I mean, on one hand, I kind of feel like, well, this is NXT. I don't mind the title defense being on there, on the show, because it's good exposure.
Yeah.
But if you want to have that moment where Braun gets the title back, I don't know, I feel like you do it in front of an NXT crowd.
Yeah, you do. 100%.
A crowd that will fully appreciate it, as opposed to a Raw crowd who seem like half people are just kind of like, okay.
I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I didn't care for it. Because look, I do appreciate that NXT got a spotlight. I do. I think that's great.
You could have Braun win on Saturday and have Dolph say, "I want my rematch on Raw," and Braun beats him again. You know.
But assuming that some of that 600,000 that are watching NXT exclusively watch NXT, don't you have to make that assumption? And then they tuned in to Stand and Deliver. They're like, "Oh my God, Braun lost to Dolph Ziggler. What happens next?" Well, what happens next is going to be on NXT TV, and then he shows up and he's champion. He's like, whoa. Or do they just assume, no, all these people are, if you're watching NXT, you're savvy enough to watch. But I don't think you should make that assumption.
I don't think you should make that assumption unless you have actual analytics in front of you that says as much.
God damn it, pal.
I don't know if they do.
I don't need numbers. I've got my gut.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like something Vince would say.
All right, let's take a break here to get a word in from our sponsor, BetterHelp. People don't always recognize the physical symptoms of stress. Headaches, teeth grinding, sleeping too much or too little, and digestive issues can all be indicators of stress.
Yeah, and having dealt with anxiety for most of my adult life, I can definitely tell tales of many nights laying awake just stressing about a variety of things. But it's moments like that where you got to remind yourself that you got to take care of yourself and try to find someone to talk to. And having gone through that process, I know how difficult it can be to find a therapist you feel comfortable speaking with. But with BetterHelp, you get customized online therapy that makes that process much more convenient by offering video, phone, and even live chat therapy sessions.
So give BetterHelp a try and see if online therapy can help lower your stress. Right now, BetterHelp is offering Going In Raw listeners 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/raw. That's BETTERHELP.com/raw.
And let's get a word from our sponsor, Raycon. So Steve, it may be, yes, 4 months into 2022, but that doesn't mean we can't all shake things up. Maybe try out a new workout routine or travel someplace new. Whatever way you decide to make a change, there's no better way to do it than with a pair of Raycon wireless earbuds in your ears.
Yeah, whether you're going to a new gym or traveling to a new destination, Raycon wireless earbuds are the best way to bring audio with you. And their everyday earbuds look, feel, and sound better than ever.
Yeah, they've got optimized gel tips for the perfect in-ear fit. Their earbuds fit so well, they don't budge at all. Whether I'm running or doing burpees, these things aren't moving. Steve, witness. I will shake my head and they will not move. Watch.
I can attest, they are not moving.
Not moving. And not only will they stay in your ears, but Raycons also give you the audio quality you need at half the price of other premium audio brands.
And right now, Going In Raw listeners can get 15% off their Raycon order at buyraycon.com/raw. That's buyraycon.com/raw to save 15% on Raycons. buyraycon.com/raw. And before we get back to the show, let's get a word from our sponsor, Chime. Hey, Larson.
Yes, Steve.
You know me, man. I don't like to wait for stuff. And I really don't like to wait to get paid, especially when I got bills due, man.
Yeah, waiting is no fun. No fun at all. I don't like waiting either, Steve. But with Chime, you can get your paycheck up to 2 days early with direct deposit. That means 2 more days to save or pay bills. And while getting paid early is pretty darn wonderful, wouldn't you say, Steve?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. There's a lot more to Chime. It's also an award-winning mobile app, checking account, debit card, and they even offer an optional savings account.
Oh, my goodness. So what are you waiting for? Hopefully not your paycheck. Get started with Chime today. Applying for a free account takes less than 2 minutes and does not affect your credit score. Get started at chime.com/raw. That's chime.com/raw.
Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank or Stride Bank, N.A. members FDIC. Early access to direct deposit funds depends on payer. Let's talk one last thing.
I'm rewatching the Cody thing here because I honestly think I saw somebody tweet out a picture of a still from his head just being there.
Yeah.
But I missed the actual literal beginning of his entrance.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm just rewatching it.
It's a good 10 seconds. He's just standing there looking around. Maybe it isn't quite that long, but it felt like a long time.
So many recaps. Well, I'm going to find out right now. You guys are going to get me live reacting to Cody's silly.
So one last and pretty major story beat happening last night on Raw. We had MVP turning on Bobby Lashley and aligning with Omos after Lashley beat Omos at WrestleMania. And MVP was very, very clear with his motivation. He kept on saying, "Oh, you don't need me anymore, huh?"
Yeah,
this is something that's been building for months.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah,
So this is not a story beat that's out of the blue. There's been kind of tension between MVP and Lashley for a very long time.
Lashley beat his ass like I don't know, a couple months ago, whenever that was.
Yeah,
in advance of like SummerSlam or whatever it was. That was good. We had sort of called that. Like, I know there were some people in our chat that were like, hey, what if this happened? And you and I think had thought, oh, maybe MVP's going to turn on him. I forget who exactly came up with the idea, but it seemed like a good one, a solid one. Mm-hmm. And the idea of Omos being with somebody else, I think somebody had suggested, oh, what if Omos joined the Hurt Business or he beats Lashley or takes Lashley to limit and Lashley says, hey, kid, come with us.
Yeah.
Well, like it was almost there. Instead, MVP turns on Lashley and Omos joins him. I think that's a great move for Omos.
Yeah.
It illustrates, number one, he's going to have another guy to learn from. And number two, it's not like they've given up on him. Lashley's a big deal. It's no harm to lose to him.
No.
And this should only make Omos better.
It should. And if this initial dynamic between MVP and Omos is any indication of where they're going, I like it. Mm-hmm. Because it's not just MVP aligning himself with the boss to destroy Lashley. You see his head poking out there, huh?
Hold on. It was there for a second, and I hit the 10 seconds back button.
But I like how
gotta see
MVP
this
was like telling Amos, go do this. Go make your statement. Don't let your foot off the gas. You know? Isn't that hilarious?
It was like 3 seconds. It was
But it felt
it
like
was
an eternity, doesn't it?
You can't do that, man.
Nope.
You gotta come on, Kevin. Come
Yep.
on, Kevin. You gotta
Cut
fade
on the
in
action,
while
Kevin.
he's cut on the action. It's
I know.
filmmaking 101.
I know. But I like that
That was
dynamic where MVP
hilarious.
was kind of coaching Amos during that beatdown.
Oh yeah, no, me too. Yeah,
I really like
yeah.
that.
And then make your statement, get him back up, crush him, make your statement. I thought that was all good stuff. I
it was.
really did.
It was.
And then we also got Damian Priest's motivation, which you know what I do appreciate. And Edge himself tweeted this out. I was hoping somebody else would because Twitter's great at finding Easter eggs. But the moment months ago, 6 months ago, I think it was, when Damian Priest runs into Edge backstage, and Edge is like, "Hey, kid, you're doing good stuff," and they shake hands, and Damian Priest thinks on it. Boom! Now here we are. I like that stuff. So the crowd, they got to do a lot to get Damian Priest out of this situation with the crowd because they can't. They have no desire to see him now at this point, and the fact that he's supposed to be the guy that doles out punishment, which I thought was cool
Nice
to reference his
to
name.
Ring of Honor name, yeah.
But then when AJ comes out with a head full of steam, how did they treat Damian Priest? Like a chump. He just sort of dispatches of him and then goes and he tries to take out Edge. So yeah, I thought I was kind of bummed out. I think that Priest shouldn't have really. I don't think Priest really needed to say anything. You don't need that. You don't need him to say, "Hey, this is why I did what I did." He just looks weaker doing it.
I know. I mean, it's if you've been paying attention, it's understandable.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Before we get to the recap, White Brownie has Raw ratings 2.1 and a 0.63. That's a good demo number.
Right. That's a really good demo number. It's funny. I looked at the Raw ratings from a year ago, and they're exactly where they are now. Like back in the Thunder. Yeah, it's like 1.8, 1.9. 2.1 is really good for Raw these days. Next week is going to drop off because Raw after Mania always pops. But yeah, I mean it's I think last year's Raw after Mania was around like 1.9 now.
Oh, gotcha. Up a little bit then.
Up a little bit.
Let's jump into it. Show opens with Cody coming out of his little mini Cody Vader. So he comes to the ring and goes, "So what do y'all want to talk about?" Exactly like you did in AEW.
That's good. Yeah.
After the contract news, he says,
You think any writer had any part of this?
No, this is all him.
This was all him.
This is all him.
Yeah.
He says, "It's been 47 days since the abrupt news that he's been a free agent, and he chose to remain silent and heard stories, defamatory whispers, theories surmised to be nonsense. Everyone assumes the decision to return to WWE was difficult. It was not. It was simple, really." He says, "The star that left them in the dust, the man standing there now, signed a multi-year agreement with WWE, and if there was a glimmer of doubt, the moment I rose up and walked the ramp at Mania and defeated one of the best superstars in any era, Seth Rollins, that doubt was eradicated." He says he's an avid reader and he found a quote. This quote is, "A man often finds his destiny on the path he takes to avoid it." So you're highlighting that. I assume you're going to see where that quote's from. So he says, "If you'll humor me and look at the Tron," and he shows a picture of Dusty holding up the old WWF championship. He says, "Right there, that's my father, American Dream, Dusty Rhodes." And it's so simple to say that he's my father, but in reality, he's a legend. He's a son of a plumber, a common man, but to me, he was my hero. He says that photo was taken in 1977 at Madison Square Garden. He's holding the belt that eventually Hulk Hogan would get his hands on, The Undertaker would get his hands on, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H too, and many other greats. And he's going to tell a story that made this whole process very simple. He says this.
So it came from the writer Jean de La Fontaine.
All right.
From, I don't know, sometime in the 1600s. I'm trying to find the actual, he was a French poet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
He says this photo was on the mantle in his parents' bedroom till his dad's last day. And he says when he got hip to the wrestling industry, he asked his dad, "I didn't know you were a champion like Hulk Hogan." And so Dusty looked at him and said very stern and patiently, and he explained what the champion's advantage was. That he had won the match, but since he had won it by count out, he didn't win the title. So he says, here I was, 8 years old. And at 8 years old, I knew not what I wanted to do, but what I needed to do. I was going to win that championship belt and I was going to bestow it to my dad and tell him that no one could take it away from him now. He says, there are many here who have followed my journey, but to those of you who are new to it, unfortunately that dream died. It died right in front of me. That opportunity passed. That opportunity passed, or did it? He says, I can't physically put that belt in my father's hands, but I can certainly put it around the waist of the American Nightmare. With that in mind, the silence is broken, the intentions are clear. I stand before you ready, finally ready, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to give my family distinction that's been denied, and I'm going to do it for the fans. I'm going to do it for myself. I'm going to do it for my family, and I'm going to do it for the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. And so Seth comes down to the ring. Cody chucks the mic aside and extends his hand. Seth smiles, shakes it, and just leans in and says, welcome home.
Yeah. And then Cody looked like, okay, what's the twist here?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
I thought this was wonderfully performed. He was getting choked up, which seemed completely legitimate. Like you said earlier, he completely outlined his motivation, his ambition, what he wants to do, what he wants to accomplish. He brought a PowerPoint presentation, or at least a slideshow of one slide. I thought it was great, man. I thought this made him look big. It made him look, okay, this guy. And now I'd be kind of surprised if he didn't accomplish that goal, which kind of means that Roman's going to ditch one of those titles and just leave it on Raw.
It seems to be the case. And I guess the question now is not if, but when Cody's going to win. Is this going to be, are they going to take their time and build up to it maybe next year at Mania? Or are they going to do it as soon as SummerSlam? Obviously, it's going to happen at a major pay-per-view.
Yeah, sure. And it should be, they should focus on this story. They have something. They have something now. You run with it, and you plot out the steps, you plot out the beats, and the fans will go along with it.
Yeah, Cody's loves a good idea. Does Cody win the title at Madison Square Garden?
Ooh,
make all the sense in the world.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, no, man, I liked all this stuff.
Does WWE have any pay-per-views in New York this year?
New York.
Anyways, you can carry on, and I'll interject if I have an answer for this.
So after that, we had Naomi and Sasha Banks versus Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. This was a championship contender match, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, I guess not, because they ended up getting a rematch for the titles. They ended up getting a title shot and a loss here.
Yeah.
So Sasha and Naomi get their finish on Liv Morgan. Yeah. Rhea gets back in the ring. Liv apologizes for the loss, and Rhea just walks out on her. She just leaves on her own. Liv goes chasing her up as Kevin Owens' music hits. He comes to the ramp, and he says, I might have made a mistake. He says, on Saturday night in the main event of WrestleMania, when I had Stone Cold Steve Austin on as my guest on the KO show, he says, I unveiled my plan to trick him into one last match, and I underestimated him because the Texas Rattlesnake is still great. He says, you have to be great to beat one of the greatest superstars in the history of WWE, Kevin Owens. He says, I'm one of the greatest to ever step foot in the ring, and when I tricked Austin into having his first match in 19 years, he says, I tricked myself a bit too because I went in that match with a pretty bad back injury. He says, I'm not lying. He says, I was limping when I came down that ramp. So I was lifting weights in the gym, a lot of weights, and I hurt myself. I should have gone home, but I knew the WWE Universe needed me to deliver a great Mania main event, so I put myself at risk for the fans, and that means as great as it was for Austin, he says it should be stricken from the record. And then he's interrupted, and on the Tron, you see Ezekiel, and it's like, who is this guy? And then he comes out, and, they're on a long shot when he comes out, and he's got some, sort of, I don't know, salmon and nude-colored.
Coral. It's like coral.
Yeah, trunks.
Yeah, and like an off-white, yeah.
Longer hair. What before you realized it was Elias?
Well, I had it spoiled for me, so I already knew it was Elias.
Okay, so you knew what was going to happen. Okay, Oh, that's right. I literally texted you.
Yeah. You spoiled it for me.
Yeah, I did. The spoiler. I'm DuckDuckGo. So he comes out, and it took me a second. I'm like, holy shit, that's Elias. I'm like, what is this Ezekiel business? So Kevin Owens is like, Elias? He's like, where have you been? He says, who the hell do you think you are interrupting me? And Ezekiel says, I'm not Elias. I'm Elias's younger brother. My name is Ezekiel. But he's saying it so tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
And immediately I'm thinking, are they doing some weird like meta storyline about WWE changing people's names and identities?
Yes.
Like that's kind of fucking genius, to be honest with you. If they do it right, which they
well,
won't,
here's the
but
thing: if
still.
they do it right, but there's also another one of those things where they get criticism for doing something, and rather adjusting the criticism of what they're doing to actually make the fans be happier, they just make a joke out of it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I understand fans being up in arms about it. I also understand the business aspect of wanting to protect your own IP. I get why they do it. I just wish they would do it in a way that was a bit more creatively satisfying. This right here, number one, is unnecessary because they own the name Elias.
I know.
And number two, it's fucking hilarious. He comes out and he's obviously Elias, just with his, he's shaved and he's got a different outfit on.
Yeah.
Ezekiel says, so Kevin Owens says, no, you're Elias. Stop the bullshit. Stop lying. I hate liars. And Ezekiel says, well, you must hate yourself then, because on Saturday night, you lied to Stone Cold and you got yourself stunned. Crowd starts saying, you got stunned. Kevin Owens says, I don't like Ezekiel. I used to like you. Now I don't. No, you know what? That's a lie. I never liked you. He says, whatever you want to call yourself, you've got 10 seconds to get out of this ring or else. And then Kevin Owens counts down from 10, and Ezekiel doesn't move a beat. He's like ready for whatever's going to come. Kevin Owens gets down to 1, then he just leaves.
So White Brownie here says, Raw, July 25th is at Madison Square Garden. Then we got Dominic Mysterio versus Miz. I thought I accidentally fast forwarded through some of this match, but no, it was very short. Miz wins like really quickly with a skull-crushing finale.
He's a dominator now.
I get it. Nice pun there.
I actually did not mean that. I am not that clever.
So then Veer finally comes. And
yes.
So Miz sees him coming. He decides to leave the ring before he comes. So Veer comes to the ring. He boots Dom, hits a huge clothesline on Ray, hits him with a side slam, and then puts on what Jimmy Smith called the cervical clutch on Dom. And Dom's tapping out. He can't tap out fast enough to get out of this thing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, he was pretty much dominated by Veer. So, that's cool. That's whatever. It's, they didn't make a joke out of Veer, so that's fine.
That's good. I know.
After that, we had a Bianca Belair promo. I missed the first part of this, so I'm not going to try to butcher your notes here.
Sure. So first off, she says that she wants to thank the fans for never. So a couple times during her promo, sometimes on my DVR, stuff will kind of skip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so there's a couple instances in here where it skipped, and so I hope I pieced it together well enough. So she
her eye wasn't. She took off her glasses. She had that gnarly. Her eye was messed up. Woo.
Yeah. She says, I want to thank the fans for never giving up on me, for believing that she'd once again stand the ring holding this championship as her own. She takes off her sunglasses, and that's when you see her shiner she has there. She says, I stand here with one eye tonight, but she wants to thank Becky for that, because even all the way back to SummerSlam, without that humiliating moment where Becky took my title in less than 30 seconds, without that moment, I couldn't have realized how much better I could be. Says, I'll never take for granted where I am, because just like that, it can be taken away, and that hurt. But I didn't have to cheat, and I didn't have to hurt my opponent to get back to the top. I went through hell and back from SummerSlam to Saturday Night at Mania. Becky said that I tried to take everything from her, but I actually think it was Becky that tried to take everything from me. She poked at me. She came for my throat, for my hair, even for my eye. And even with one eye, I caught everything Becky threw my way. With one eye, I fought till the end. And with one eye, I'm standing here tonight. I overcame all that because the fans deserve better. And I think she says this weren't cut out. So I became better, and I'm going to be the best champ I can be. She knows what it feels. She says, I know what it feels like to be at the top. I know how hard it is to stay at the top. And now that I have this title, I never want to let it go ever again. I'm willing to fight and face every single woman in the locker room. No woman's prepared to do what it takes to get the title from me, because after Saturday, I am different and I am better. And she says, now that Becky doesn't have the title to defend, maybe she can find out who she is without the championship. She says, I know who I am. I'm the EST of WWE and the new Raw Women's Champ. It was a really good promo.
It was really good promo. I kind of wish that we would have gotten a clearer picture as to what is going to be next for her.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody interrupting. That's kind of that's one thing that's like sort of a staple for Raw's After Mania that, or whenever there's a big blow off match at any point, I want somebody to step up, but we'll find out soon enough. After that, we had rematch from Stand and Deliver. Dolph Ziggler versus Braun Breaker once again for the NXT title. We talked about this, in our intro. But yeah, I mean, I kind of appreciate with Braun Breaker, the story, of course, is he's new. And so, but once, and they even mention this during the thing, they say, everybody notes Braun Breaker's power and explosiveness, but he's also a student of the game. You'll find him in the film room studying tape as much as you will in the gym. And so, yes, he doesn't have a lot of experience, but he learns quickly. And the finish almost went down identical to Stand and Deliver. Braun Breaker adjusted. He ends up getting the win here against Dolph Ziggler, and he's your new 2-time NXT champion.
Yep. Probably should have happened in front of an NXT crowd, but didn't. After that, MVP comes out, and he says, they say that actions speak louder than words, and it is his privilege to introduce a man whose actions spoke volumes at WrestleMania, a man who single-handedly triumphed over Omos. He didn't even need my help. So he introduces Bob Lashley. Lashley comes to the ring. He gets the mic, and the crowd is chanting, Bobby, Bobby. It's great to see Lashley get this kind of reaction. It's awesome.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And Lashley pretty much says, as to why he stepped up to Omos, I couldn't resist. I had to see how strong, how powerful Omos was, and when I stepped in the ring with him, I thought to myself, do you really want to do this? But then he knew when he knocked Omos on his ass, he knew it could be done at Mania. He could say that Omos beat the hell out of him. He's the strongest man he's ever been in the ring with. He felt almost hopeless for a second, but he knew that if Omos made a mistake, he knew he was going to beat him, and that's what happened. And then he's interrupted by Omos. He comes to the ring. He just yells, I want a rematch. That was a fluke. And then MVP relays that to the crowd on the mic because Omos just said it. And then so MVP says, hey, Omos wants a rematch. And Lashley squares up to Omos. He's ready to fight right there. And then MVP blasts Lashley from behind. Omos blasts him. MVP hits Lashley with some ground and pound, yells at Lashley, you don't need me, huh? And then he tells Omos to crush him. Make your statement.
Yeah.
And so they beat him up a bit, and then Omos hits Lashley with a choke bomb, and MVP raises Omos's hand.
Yeah.
It's really good stuff.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that was good stuff. After that, we had Liv Morgan walking up to Rhea backstage. Rhea says, hey, I've been talking to Pierce and Sonya. We got a tag title match next week. Liv says, that makes up for what happened. Thanks for doing that. Rhea says, no, thank you for forgiving me. Now let's go get that. Let's go win that gold next week. That ain't going to happen.
This makes no sense why they lost the championship contender match and then get a championship shot anyways.
Yeah. I mean, it's just Rhea's going to turn heel on Liv. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it'd be nice. I don't know. Maybe, you can catch people off guard. Hey, Pierce, can I get a tag match, title match next week? Oh, did you guys win this week?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. That's good.
All right. Yeah, you got it.
It's already in the books. It's done.
So we were scheduled to have Carmella and Zelina Vega take on Shayna Baszler and Natalya. However, before the match began, as Mike Rome is about to announce, Shayna and Natalya, I had a burrito for lunch. Zelina grabs the mic.
What kind of burrito was it?
It's a vegetarian one. It just has beans and corn and some...
Like homemade or from a place?
No, it was from Trader Joe's.
Nice.
They're really good. Put them in the air fryer. So Zelina
stuff.
grabs the mic from Mike Rome, and she says, hey, Carmella, you're the one that cost us the tag titles at WrestleMania. You're so preoccupied with yourself and the man who was a fool for marrying you. However, he is a very handsome man. And Carmella snatches the mic from Zelina, says, I'm the most beautiful woman in the world, and who cares that you won the Queen's Crown tournament? Says, when Corey and I announced that we were getting married, I was sure that you were going to be one of my bridesmaids. Not anymore. Now you can be my flower girl.
Oof.
And then Zelina punches Carmella. Carmella rolls out of the ring and basically leaps into Corey's arms. Zelina yanks her to the floor and walks away. And so Corey kind of helps Carmella up into his chair. And he's like, okay, you're safe now. Everything's fine. And then they just start making out.
Oh, yeah, man. Sucking face. Swap and spit. Good stuff. Hot. After that, we got the Usos backstage. Theory's looking mad, dude. And the Usos point that out. They say, you're looking mad, man, because unlike us, you didn't get the W at Mania. He says, our tag championships aren't going anywhere. We're going to show the bloodline still runs the whole company. They asked Theory if Vince made him. They're like, oh, Vince made you the chosen one. And we almost believe the hype. But we'd be embarrassed if we lost to Stone Cold and an ex-NFL punter. Theory goes off. He says, I had Pat beat. He got lucky, and he's not going to talk. He says, I'm not even going to talk about Stone Cold. He said, Vince McMahon never made a mistake, and I'm the best investment Vince has ever made. And tonight, Finn might as well be Pat McAfee because he's going to catch a round. A-Town down. He was hot.
He was upset. So that match happened next. You got RK Bro and Finn Balor versus the Usos and Austin Theory. So the Usos are in control. Jay is preening to the crowd. He even goes over and punches Finn off the apron. But this all allows Matt Riddle, who is in customary fashion for an RK Bro tag match. Riddle's isolated. He hits a knee on Jay, gets the hot tag to Orton. Jimmy gets tagged into. Randy goes on a run. As he's going for a draping DDT, Theory tags himself in. Orton hits the draping DDT. He's looking for an RKO. Theory drop kicks him into his own corner. Finn tags in. He's looking for a coup de grace on Theory. Theory evades that. He's looking for his finish. Finn reverses that to reverse DDT. Jimmy breaks up that pin. Jimmy eats an RKO. Jay super kicks Randy. Riddle gets a super kick as well. Finn hits Jay with a sling blade, and then Theory hits Finn with his finisher. I believe they call it A-Town down now to get the win.
Yeah. Favorite part about this was Randy Orton doing Finn Balor's entrance motion. When Finn gets up on the thing and he does this, Randy did this too. And he was chuckling. He just seems like he's having so much fun. So, yeah, Austin Theory's probably going to pick up that U.S. title sooner than
Seems
later,
like
man.
it. Seems like it.
Yeah. Oh, man. So then we had a very lengthy Edge promo with Damian Priest. So he comes out. He says, I'm an honest man. He said, I said that AJ would face his judgment at Mania, and he did. He said, I didn't expect Damian Priest to appear, but it makes perfect sense if you stop to think about it. He says, for AJ, for most of us, I know thinking is hard. He's doing it for the crowd. He's like, for most of you, thinking is hard.
Yeah, sorry.
He says, but for too long, Priest fought his inner self, just like me. He says, for too long, he was a role model for all the sheep. And the crowd starts chanting, we are sheep, we are sheep. He says, so without further ado, I demand everybody here rise for the man who respects my message, the man who will be the punishment for the guilty. And then Damian Priest makes his way to the ring. Damian Priest shakes hand with Edge. He really should go back to that deep voice, dude.
Oh, it was great.
He says, asked Damian what it was about my message that caused him to take his career back into his own hands. He's like, so what part of what I said really stuck with you? He's doing
what
focus
resonated
group.
with you, yes.
Exactly. And Priest says, first of all, you've meant a lot to me for a long time. He says, but the weeks leading into Mania, I was lost. The crowd starts chanting, we don't care. He says, there was a time that would have bothered me. Edge says, not anymore, losers. And then it's funny because he needs to be careful with that shit, because for a guy who is all about, the eloquent verbiage and whatnot.
I know. There's a couple times
going down to a pedestrian level, it sort of just doesn't fit with what the character's supposed to be, I think.
And that happened a couple times here.
Yeah, it totally. It's like, I understand maybe the concept is he's full of shit.
Yeah.
But you'd think that he'd been doing it for so long, he can not break that veneer of, what he's trying to be. Anyways, Priest,
he's putting out there, yes.
So Priest says, I tried to please everybody except for myself, but all that changed when I heard your message. He says, it gave me direction. He says, I know you were speaking to AJ, but it felt like you were speaking directly to me, and that's why it was easy to make the decision to pledge my loyalty to you. Edge says, it was the best decision of your life, but it's funny. The night I had my epiphany was the same night that Priest decided to take your power back. He says, what a coincidence. We judged AJ at Mania, and then we're going to pass judgment on anybody who challenges our message. He says, now AJ is going to keep coming. He says, I wanted the pit bull, and I got it. But the thing about pit bulls is they don't have intellect. They only know how to fight, not flight. They only know fight, not flight, the fight or flight thing. He says, but AJ has to realize that his best option is flight. He says, you got to think about your family. Your kids need a father. And then AJ interrupts, storms towards the ring. Priest goes out to intercept him, and he just completely gets thrown over the barricade by AJ. Yeah. AJ hits the ring to attack Edge. He posts him twice, gets a couple of chairs out, looks for a concerto. Priest lays him out. Priest and Edge hit a leg sweep and a spear combo. Edge sets up for a concerto. The refs and the producers come out to break it up.
Yep. Then we had Street Profits versus Alpha Academy. So Alpha Academy just beats the heck out of the Profits before the bell even rings. Adam Pearce comes out and is like, hey, if the four of you just wanted to fight, all you had to do was ask. This is now a Texas Tornado tag match.
You know, dude, this was fun, but kind of similar to the six-man tag earlier. I don't know. I always feel like those types of matches is just like, well, we don't have anything else. Let's give them a little bit of like some WrestleMania taste and put them back in the ring with each other. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like the stuff where I'm like, I could miss this. This could have been something else. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what though. I know what you're saying. The end was fun though. So Otis gets a table from under the ring. He sets it up. Gable puts Dawkins on it, and so Otis is looking for a Vader bomb. And then while that's all happening, Gable hits a crossbody that sends him and Ford over the top out of the ring. While that's happening, Dawkins gets off the table, dumps Otis to the floor, sends him into the ring steps. By that point, Ford's back in the ring. He's going up the top rope. Gable goes over, sweeps his feet out from under him, looking for a superplex. Ford pushes him off. Dawkins punches Gable, so Chad falls on the table, and then Ford hits him with a frog splash through the table to get the win.
Yep. After that, finally, the tribal chief arrives at Raw, comes out. He says, instead of doing, because it looked like he was on the verge of saying, Dallas, acknowledge me. He says, no, we're going to do things a little bit different. I'm going to switch things up a little bit. And he says, wise man, explain the Bloodline success. So Paul Heyman gets on the mic. He says, the Usos are the longest reigning tag champions in the history of SmackDown. The largest box office receipts for SummerSlam, Survivor Series, because Roman was in the main event. The first $1 billion grossing year in sports entertainment. The largest box office in the history of the Rumble. And he's mentioning that Roman Reigns was on the top of all this. The largest crowds, largest grossing Mania. Roman Reigns was on the top throughout it all. Crowd starts chanting for Roman. He says, Heyman, you always say that what's good for Roman Reigns is good for WWE. He says, and it's no secret. With me at the head of the table, the $1 billion deals are coming easy. And that's because I'm the last needle mover. And I'm the last needle mover because I'm constantly operating at God mode. But you see, I'm so much more than all that. I'm a man of my word. I called my shot and I delivered. I said I was going to smash Brock. And what did I do? I smashed him. He says, that's the past now. Other men would hang their hat on this last weekend, but that's not who I am. I'm never content. I'm a progressive tribal chief. I'm constantly moving forward. So this Friday on SmackDown, I'm going to let you know what the next step is. But until then, Dallas, Texas, acknowledge me.
I wonder how the show would have went if they had switched the opening and closing segments. If they had Roman open and had Cody close the show.
It'd be 1.8 million. Everybody tuning out of that shit.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't know, because I know Fightful had said that there was some waffling on what was going to close, Cody or Roman. I think Roman is probably the smart move, making people stick around to find out what's going to happen with this Undisputed Championship. Unfortunately, they just decided to find out on SmackDown. But it's kind of apropos for Roman anyways, keep everybody hanging on your last word.
Yeah.
And then they'll tune in to SmackDown. SmackDown will get 2.4 million, 2.5 million, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. We'll find out. Anyways, let's go ahead and answer some questions.
Yeah.
I've got a thread right here on the Patreon. Patreon.com/Steve and Larson. Let's see here. First up, trying to find one that we haven't already talked about.
No, well, here, while you look, Mayor Planet Houston here in chat says, Triple H left his boots in the ring at WrestleMania. Who steals them and gains H powers?
Cody. Should be Cody. I wanted a pedigree at WrestleMania.
Tommaso Ciampa.
Oh, that's good, too. That's a good answer, too. How about they have a match
for Triple H's boots?
Who gets to be Triple H's boots now? Yeah. Let's see here. My goodness, we have addressed all this stuff.
Oh wow, white brownie.
Oh yeah, here we
Sorry,
go.
ahead.
Well, Wolfpack for life. What other superstars have little brothers, and what are their names? Well, obviously Undertaker has Kane, but we know that one. Does Finn have a younger brother in kayfabe? What if it's revealed that Butch is his younger brother?
Oh wow,
Which doesn't even make sense because they're not even remotely from the same area.
no, that'd be interesting though. Does Seth have a little brother?
Oh yeah.
Keith Rollins.
It's Steph, like Seth and like the Curry brothers. Yeah.
There you go. Good.
I like Keith's good though. Who's okay? So who would Keith's older brother be? Let's say there's a Keith. Who's his older brother? Keith Lee.
Okay.
Keith Lee.
I was going to say Austin Theory, even though I think Austin Theory is probably younger than what Keith is supposed to be in Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
White Brownie with Money in the Bank coming up soon. Do you see WWE righting their wrong by having Cody win it? It's entirely possible. He wins Money in the Bank and then cashes in at the Madison Square Garden Raw and wins the title there.
Yeah. Money in the Bank's in June, isn't it?
Yeah, 4th of July weekend.
That was dope. I said it's in June. He said, yeah, 4th of July. Let's see. Is this 4th of July weekend, really?
Yeah. I think it's the
That's
2nd
crazy.
or something like that.
Okay.
Folsom Joe, who has the higher ceiling, Braun Breaker or Wardlow?
Boy, that's a great question.
It is.
My gut says Wardlow.
Well, right now Wardlow has a more interesting character, or he's involved in a more interesting storyline.
I feel like Braun Breaker is one of them dudes who, with the right thing, he could break out huge.
Yeah, exactly.
But they got to figure out what that right thing is.
I know. Agreed.
And that's not always guaranteed. Same thing with Austin Theory. I think Austin Theory just needs that one little thing, that Cena wearing the jersey thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then he'll break out huge. But I don't know. I don't know if they're going to find it. With Austin Theory, it might just end up being they just might end up just pounding him down our throats, you know?
Yeah. Cornbread Haas with the NCAA tournament ending last night. I've got a question. What are some of your favorite wrestling tournaments? Deadly Games. Survivor
It's a
Series.
deadly game.
98.
G1 every year.
Yeah, it really is. It's a G1.
Let's see here. My new favorite tournament is the Lose Your Way Up tournament.
Oh, in AAA, yeah.
Winner
Or
gets
lose-
out tournament.
Loser
I
of the
love
tournament
that.
loses their mask, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
is.
what a brilliant concept.
It's pretty creative.
You're trying desperately to get out of this tournament. Lord Ziffer, what are some ways to get Finn Balor back on track? Because his create has been so bad with the U.S. title.
Well, you got to win. You should stop losing.
Sometimes it's just that easy, isn't it?
It really is.
Win something, man.
People like Finn. People want to cheer for Finn, but then
I
they have
know.
him lose.
It's weird. They have the guy. It's Finn Balor, but Finn's probably, God damn, pal.
Just
He's
loses.
so small.
Just loses all the time. Loses. Raw's Cody what if after his match at Mania, Stone Cold caught the itch to wrestle some more? Who does he face?
And Goldberg.
Oh gosh,
Dream bitch.
last thing I'd want to see. I think Stone Cold versus Seth would be really good.
Yeah, you got to put him in there with. I would say this. I know. Look, there's like one person. There's two people I could think of. Number one is just Kevin Owens. They did it. The other one is Mox. Because they're sort of the most Stone Cold guys. And then I guess CM Punk. Punk maybe. But I don't know. It's funny, man. Like somebody asked in the edit of reactions. Given that, especially me, like I've been a huge, like Stone Cold is my guy. He was like, man, why I didn't pop more for him coming back for a match. And I think it's because I'm just not into the nostalgia thing that much. Like it doesn't even it's taken me a little bit to get back into like when CM Punk came back. Thought it was cool. I thought I was like, okay, this is neat. But all those guys are, to me, is a reminder of them at their best. And it's also kind of a reminder that they're not. And I'm not saying Punk isn't like still a great. He's clearly still a great wrestler. But there was something unique about CM Punk in that situation back in 2011. It was WWE was rapidly moving away from him, and he was there to call them out on their bullshit. And he would do that during that span of time, constantly calling them out on their bullshit. And it was a unique situation. He's not in that situation anymore. And he can, I'm sure, I have no doubt that CM Punk, you know, he is. The MJF stuff was great.
Yeah.
He's still in some really good stuff. He could still really cut a good promo. Austin, on the other hand, like, he's just a reminder of how good 1998 was, you know? And it's just, it's not going to be that again. And it can't be that again. And so it's little more for me than, oh, this is cool, this is fun, but it's not vital and it's not urgent in the moment, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean. Stone Cold coming back to having a match. Okay, yeah, I guess that's neat, but my excitement level never rose above, oh, neat.
Yeah, right. Yeah, same. Even when they brought the ref out, it was like, I mean, I found a lot more. I was popping a lot more for the entertainment value of what happened the next night, because old ass Vince was going crazy, and then seeing two guys in there just having fun and laughing at the ridiculousness of it, I thoroughly enjoy. I'm not super emotionally invested in it. It's just like, I like people having fun, you know, and Austin laughing his ass off over that awful Vince stunner really tickled the hell out of me. But it's not like the same thing as me back in 1998 watching Austin going off every week as this fucking dangerous, you know, character who this time bomb who could just go off at any moment. Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
So there you go.
This is probably a good one to end on here. White Brownie with Seth Rollins recently saying he wants one more match with Mox. Which is more likely to happen, Mox in WWE or Tyler Black in All Elite Wrestling?
That's a great question. My gut would say Mox in WWE, which I think is so not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think that's so much more likely than Seth Rollins leaving the big time.
Yeah, totally. Agreed.
Yeah.
Like if you know, with Cody going back to WWE, and if he kind of gets a degree of creative latitude that very few people get, and people that may have left at WWE for that reason because they weren't getting any creative latitude, see that, can negotiate that for themselves, it's entirely possible. I don't think it's likely for Mox to go back. It seems like he was miserable when he was there the last couple years.
Yeah.
But, you know, you never know. He could be in AEW for another 5-10 years, feel like, well, I've done all I could do here.
Yeah.
Go back to get one last massive payday. Go in the WWE Hall of Fame and go into retirement and just do GCW shows when I want to, you know?
You know, the thing is there's only so much you can do in wrestling in general. Like, look at how much stuff he's already done outside of WWE. At a certain point, that might not be his thing. He might be like, you know, I've done so many blood sports. I've bled a lot. I've done death matches. I've done everything. I've been AEW world champion already. I helped establish AEW with my name recognition. You know, maybe at some point he's just going to be like, you know what? I'll go have some fun with some old friends in WWE, get a huge payday. And you know, the thing is also, like, Cody's got a multi-year deal. I don't know if that's 2 years or 3 years, but time flies.
Yeah, it does.
Time flies. And I honestly half expect Cody to go back to AEW after this contract.
I would not be surprised.
That would not shock me at all, because what does he like doing? Remaining relevant. And if you got and he's learned, if you got a contract coming up and you walk away, you're the talk of the town. Anyways. Twitch chat, stick around. We'll hang out for a little bit and raid somebody. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Of course, tomorrow we'll be back with our NXT review. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.